A tribute to film director Rob Reiner on this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Hello and welcome to the Movies Past and Present podcast. It's December 22nd, 2025, and this is episode 142. I'm your host, Stanford Clark, and I'm podcasting from the crossroads of the West in beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah. Just like my website, moviespastandpresent.com, I'll be providing recommendations, commentary, and reviews about current and classic cinema. Thanks for tuning in, and let's do this thing. I'm joined by my buddy Darren Lumber. Hey, Darren, what's going on?
Hey, Stanford. Wish we were together under better circumstances, but
Oh, my stars, Darren. So do I. Darren had just, honestly, I think the day we both found out that Rob Reiner had been murdered, Darren, pitched the idea like, let's do a podcast. And so thanks. Great idea. Even though, I mean, it's sad, but we're also hoping to make this joyful in that there's so much of his work that we respect.
yeah. Well, I hope I'm not out of line by saying this, but we originally were planning on doing a Diane Keaton episode.
Yeah, we were going to record a Diane Keaton one. Yeah,
it had just been delayed for so long, and I was like, I love Diane Keaton, but I don't. And then this Rob Reiner thing happened. I'm like, I think I'm more passionate about Rob Reiner.
Oh, absolutely. No offense taken. I was just always looking for an excuse to podcast with you, Darren. So I'm just glad that we get to chat, even though it's under somber, kind of somber circumstances. But
like we talked about, it's more of a celebration than a funeral for him. So it's always, you say murdered, and it's just that's so weird. Like I guess I've known Rob Reiner for as long as I've known movies. I think Princess Bride is a very formative film for me, and so
absolutely,
you have these legends that are just around, and you expect them. Like when I first saw Rob Reiner found dead in his home, I was like, oh well, he is in his 80s, right, or 70s, and so maybe it was just his time, and then it just got worse and worse the more that it
did. Just because by the time you had sent me that text and I had heard that something happened, and then by the time I got the text, I think there was all the
everything was
the speculation, like this double stabbing, that happened, and oh my gosh, grisly, and
so the last thing you'd expect from a legend, I guess. You thought they'd go out quiet or not like this. Not
Darren, what a horrible way to go. And then just my heart goes out to the family and everything. I mean, it's
friends. How many friends and lasting relationships has he built over these years?
Oh,
I'm
seriously.
Just about when I was doing the research for When Harry Met Sally, and I found out that Billy Crystal and Rob Reiner were actually best friends. And to think of Billy Crystal losing Robin Williams and like two of his closest friends in such tragic,
horrible ways. I know. Oh gosh, it's a heartbreaker.
Yeah.
But we always will have these films, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful that you and I get a chance to talk about them. So what we decided to do was, we went through a few iterations, didn't we, Darren? We were going to do separate lists and different things, but we decided we actually came upon 7 movies that we love that were directed by Rob Reiner. So that's what we're going to dedicate this podcast to. And again, as a celebration of the great work Rob Reiner did. So we've got these 7 films. We're going to go in chronological order from when they were released. And what was so interesting to me, Darren, is that these 7 films were all made within an 11-year period, 11 consecutive years. Wasn't that crazy? I mean, that was just kind of a coincidence, I think, as we were just picking the films that we wanted to talk about. But what a creative period of time. I mean, what in the world?
Right. Well, I think the thing is, with somebody compared him on Twitter to, like, they said, who's the better director, Ron Howard or Rob Reiner? And I was like, what's interesting about that is Ron Howard, I like him, but he's a other than his stories about how his movies are all about family, whether it's Apollo 13 or whether it's The Heart of the Sea, it's all about groups of people, parenthood, all about groups of people that function as a family, right? The Paper does that. Willow
Yes.
does, it's about Willow's building a family, that kind of thing. And so, other than that, I kind of find Ron Howard to be a very vanilla direct. Like, I don't get a lot of visual sense from Ron Howard. And it was again, not trying to knock Ron because he makes some great movies that do affect us emotionally, but I couldn't think of other than Apollo 13, I couldn't think of a single image that oh, this is obviously a Ron Howard movie. And then compared to Rob Reiner, I don't know if there's, again, he's not, he kind of disappears into the material that he directs. He lets the material serve, or he serves the material instead of the material serving him. And so and we'll talk about why I think his films come off as very personal. But when you just look at him, and other than not finding out that Rob Reiner had passed away, I think we kind of take his films for granted because we don't realize how good that we had it for that 11 years. The movies that, when you think about the movies that we're going to talk about, I don't know if a lot of them come off in regular conversation, but when you mention Rob Reiner, now he's gone, and oh, look at, he did that, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
movies did have impact. You know what I'm saying? It just seems like he affects you in ways that you don't realize, like a Spielberg or a Fincher or an Orson Welles. They grab you from the start, and Rob Reiner's more like, oh, that was Rob Reiner. And after a while, you get a sense of, he knows how to make a movie. He knows how to direct actors. And that's, I think, his legacy. He just makes good movies no matter what he does. And we don't realize, oh, The Princess Bride, you know what? That actually is one of my favorite movies. Now that I think about it, I don't think about it constantly, but when you remind me, it's like, you know what? I would put that up there. I would put This Is Spinal Tap up there. So I don't know if that makes any sense. I'm just basically saying that you don't realize what you have until it's gone, I guess.
Yeah, great points. It's interesting to compare him with Ron Howard, for example, because again, kind of the same uh, demographic. Both raised by in Hollywood with parents that were actors, and they got started at a young age, both of them, with it. And yeah, Ron Howard's films, I feel like Ron Howard is a really competent director. But I'm with you. Nothing is particularly emotional. But then you look at these 7 films that we're going to be talking about with Rob Reiner, and I mean, both Rob and Ron too directed multiple genres.
Yeah.
But wow, you think of these films with Rob Reiner, and each one of these films is so different. Yeah, and I think you're right. I think the performances are really unforgettable. He worked with these great writers, and just so competent, so accomplished. Yeah. What a really a pretty remarkable body of work. Again, particularly I think these films that we're talking about, I think are often considered some of his best. Right. So let's start with this first one, Darren. So it's from 1984. This is Spinal Tap, which is really one of the classic mockumentaries. Was it basically almost like one of the first mockumentaries, to use that term, this a documentary that's fake.
Yeah, I think the term mockumentary might have been that's when they really started using it after This Is Spinal Tap. But you've got I think Woody Allen made a movie in the 60s, Take the Money and Run.
Yeah, Take the Money. Right. Good point.
Real Life in 1979, I think that's the name of it. And then again at Woody Allen, which is it's a better Forrest Gump than Forrest Gump, putting this guy in these historical, and for 83 that was amazing. But yeah, Spinal Tap is 84, and even though it's not the first one, I think it made more of an impact than any of the others, because we don't really talk about Woody Allen's movies or those movies that he made in that genre, or Albert Brooks even. We talk about this one though.
Well, this one gets quoted all the time, particularly like you turn up to 11. I mean, everybody uses that, and I really think that was originated in This Is Spinal Tap, wasn't it? Or was there another place where it was used here?
Exactly. I think the issue with This Is Spinal Tap, and they let's see, Megan Kearns and Jason of Binge Movies, they covered like a Criterion special for one of Binge Movies ranking episodes, and they talked about This Is Spinal Tap because I think it's one of Criterion's original discs. And they kind of talked about it in a way that, I mean, they gave it like maybe a 7 out of 10. It wasn't, you think of This Is Spinal Tap as being a class, and I get what they were saying, but I think This Is Spinal Tap is one of those movies that's so quotable, and every scene has something that's so funny in it that you've seen the movie even before you've seen the movie. And so I
Right.
think by the time you actually see This One Goes to 11, you've heard that so many times that it's not quite as funny anymore. I don't know if that makes any, because you've already heard the joke multiple times. But put yourself in the shoes of people. People didn't know that Spinal Tap was a fake band. They thought this was an actual documentary about a band that they'd never heard of.
Right.
So I think it's that same. You've got to. Again, I'm not trying to knock that episode, because they did explain it, but it just made me think that this is the kind of movie that, like I said, you've seen it before you've even seen it, so it doesn't have quite the same effect. A lot of people that watch the youngins that watch movies today, they're like, "Oh, I recognize that meme," and I'm like, "That meme? Like, it's like, why?" And you know what I mean? And they watch the spoofs of movies without watching the movies that they're spoofing, and so it's kind of a backwards way of watching movies now. When you see these movies that are they made such an impact that you don't realize how much of it, because it's been waves and waves of other movies after it, that you don't feel the same kind of weight that it had when it originally dropped.
Yeah, this movie, I've seen it so many times, but I never tire of it. And you hear these stories about the production. Now, clearly they had some kind of a framework, right? But wasn't it really all basically, impromptu? I mean,
Yeah.
they is that? I'm not making that up, am I, Darren?
No, I mean, I think I think Reiner's decision was, you've got to, it can't be scripted. I think who's Patrick McNee, who was on the Avengers. They actually wrote a monologue for him because he's not good at the improvising. But everything else, I think they just had to have a spontaneous, which even led to the camera work.
Yeah.
Had to have kind of a spontaneous improvisatory, because you're just following this band around. And I know that Reiner had met Harry Shearer and Michael McKean and Christopher Guest before, and I think they tried to do a pilot of a show called TV Show, where the format of it
Oh,
was like,
yeah.
you're clicking around with the remote, and every time you stop on a channel, it would be a like a satire of a particular show. And one of those segments did have Spinal Tap in it, or the McKean and Guest and Shearer playing rock music. And so I think that's where it came from, and they kind of expanded it. But again, I think that improvisatory kind of feel to it, that's what helps distinguish it. And yeah, Christopher Guest has gone on and made Best in Show and, Waiting for Guffman and all these others. And I think that's where this idea kind of originated.
And they kind of got that troop, right? And they just continued. There's just something that about this one, though, that is, again, maybe just because, again, maybe is one of the first ones, this mockumentary with the music theme, right? With about a band and whatnot.
Right.
But it still, I think, seems so original and just so funny.
Yeah.
There was a sequel that came out this year.
Right.
I don't know if you saw it, Spinal Tap 2: The End Continues. I saw it.
Okay.
And Rob Reiner directed it.
Right.
And was in it. I mean, because they all reprised their characters,
Right.
Christopher Guest and Harry Shearer and Michael McKean anyway. And it's funny. I mean, part of it just because just to see them on screen and being these characters again is delightful. It wasn't great. I didn't think it was great, but
not up to snuff with this one.
No, but they had some really funny cameos in it, and Elton John's in it, Paul McCartney,
of course,
and those parts were funny. Like what they did, like you kind of can't believe what they did with Paul McCartney with Elton John and others.
I just haven't got around to it.
Yeah, I mean, and definitely watch it now too. Just given the Rob's gone, but nothing beats This Is Spinal Tap, I think, as far as just great comedy.
Well, the thing that's funny too, you had movies like The Last Waltz, and you had Woodstock, and had all these other concert kind of movies.
Yes, they're very serious.
And what really makes, again, the whole,
Pretentious, even in a way.
yeah, and that's the conceit of the movie, right? It's so funny that you're following these guys around that are so oblivious to how not good they are. But they're so serious about their art, right? And you have this, like, the Stonehenge sequence with Spielberg.
Stonehenge.
You have
That plays into the sequel, Jared.
really?
So
Oh,
you need to see
that's
it just for that.
oh
Yeah.
my gosh, and they have the little guy come out and dance because it's trying to be to scale, and they're when they're trapped in little cocoons or whatever, and they can't get out, it's really funny, or when they're getting so pumped up, rock and roll, trying to get out to the stage, and they just end up going in circles, stuff like that, or I remember the first time I watched This Is Spinal, which was a Criterion disc, which I actually got, like, when I first started collecting discs, but I remember having it on, and the only thing I was familiar with was that this goes to 11, so I kind of hit it at the exact moment, the sweet spot where I needed to hit it, where it was funny, and I did laugh a lot, but just when they talk about the drummers and how they keep losing their drummers, and I remember, and what was that, like, one dies in a gardening accident, another guy dies choking on somebody else's vomit. And then they have, like, one explodes and then spontaneous combustion. And I remember they were naming it off, and Elizabeth, my wife, was in the room, not really paying attention, or I didn't think she was paying attention. But at one point she goes, "So how many drummers is that have exploded?" I just thought, I was like, okay, that's making an impact. I just thought that was, and it goes so far where they commit to the bit where there's a commentary track with the three of them. And they're in character, and it's so funny them talking about the drummers exploded. But yeah,
It's so funny.
you know what I mean. It has to hit at some movies just have to hit at a time where you're boarding the train exact when it's taking off. You know what I mean? And you can't. I don't think you can watch Spinal Tap 40, 50, 60 years after the fact and go and have the same kind of, you know, have it affect you the same way.
I think too what impressed me about the Spinal Tap, probably from the get go, was also just how Rob Reiner and the team truly created the look of a documentary.
Yes.
You know, the way it was filmed, the way it was edited, and which again I just thought was brilliant. You know, just the craftsmanship of it was impressive to little old me and old me too.
Well, I do want to. I want to get in the habit of mentioning the cinematographers because we talk about what the movie looks like. It was Peter Smokler that did this one, and I think even he was treating it as a real documentary, which I really think adds to the fun of it.
Oh, absolutely, just 100%. And just the way that they use the captions, and you know,
Fran Drescher shows up as I guess the
Fran Drescher.
Yeah.
Good stuff. And I guess technically, is this Rob Reiner's first feature length film that he directed, or was there another one before this?
I think
it's
his first one because
I think this is often attributed as his first feature film.
This is the exact. I was thinking The Sure Thing might have come before this, but no, that came the year after.
That came after that. It was the following year, right? The Sure, yeah.
But what a debut! I think I talked about at the beginning, like, oh, it doesn't really make an impact, and this might not be the greatest, but that might not be considered the greatest, but it works for me, or it's solid. I think This Is Spinal Tap. If I had to, I think I would put this as the greatest mockumentary ever made. I think, and controversially, maybe The Waiting for Guffman. I like those, but
I think those are hilarious. But
yeah,
I would pick This Is Spinal Tap over those.
Yeah, it's just
a Mighty Wind, you know, all those, yeah. Waiting for Guffman is really funny, but I still think This Is Spinal Tap is the mockumentary still to that still reigns supreme.
It never wears out its welcome. It's edited, like you said, and pitched just right. It ends when it needs to end. It is kind of hopeful with them getting together again and playing in Japan, kind of again, which it's so funny. You hear real musicians talk about how I think Ozzy Osbourne was like, I didn't laugh a bit during this whole movie because it's so true to life, and that makes it even funnier.
Exactly. Such a great film. So the next one that we that Darren and I picked is from 1986, so a couple years after, because as you're saying, the Sure Thing, right, is the one that's I think in between
Yeah.
these two films as far as release dates.
Which is another
Was
great
the,
movie. That's another great
yeah,
movie, I
oh,
think.
absolutely. I mean, that would definitely be kind of like next if we kept the list going longer, or kind of deep cuts.
Yeah.
Stand by Me is our next one. Uh, the the coming of age film that based on a short story by Stephen King called The Body. Have you ever read that? I've not read that short
Yes.
story. Have you read that short story?
I have the collection is called Different Seasons, so it's got The Body, it's got Rita Hayworth and The Shawshank Redemption. So
Oh, that's in that collection too.
yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Oh,
Then there
okay.
was another movie called it was a story called Apt Pupil that Bryan Singer made into a movie with Ian McKellen. And then there's another one called The Breathing Method. It's basically 4 stories that are based in the seasons or whatever, but The Breathing Method has not been made into a movie yet, but it's the other 3 have, which is again very Stephen King, that fits into his legend of, the amount of adaptations that have been made into movies.
Absolutely. So, what's your take on Stand by Me? What do you think about it? What's memorable for you? Why did you want it on our list?
Well, Stand By Me, we've covered 2, Rob Reiner movies for Nostalgia Cast. We've covered, Stand By Me, and we've covered A Few Good Men. And which with the caveat that we'll probably cover more movies in the future, especially now that we're thinking about them. But Stand By Me is one of those movies, and I don't want to repeat myself too much, but again, I can't remember what I said about because that was a long time ago we recorded that episode. But I do remember that Stand By Me is one of those that when you watch it, you really like it, and the ending really sticks, and then you move on with your life. And when we watched it for the podcast, it was like, this movie is great. This movie is just
Yeah, it's so good.
masterful as you're watching it. And it's stuck with me since then. But speaking of being an actor's director, the way that Rob Reiner was able to direct Will Wheaton and River
Oh,
Phoenix and Corey Feldman and
seriously,
Jerry O'Connell,
those
even Kiefer Sutherland,
performances. Yeah,
John Cusack,
right. Yep.
you read stories about the background of how they made these movies and the way that he worked with them. I think River Phoenix has a scene this monologue where it talks about his life like down when in the middle of the night or something like that, and Phoenix delivered the monologue well enough, but Reiner thought, I think you can do it and dive a little deeper. And so we talked to Phoenix about dig down, really focus, and let's redo this from the perspective of something that happened in your life and how that affected you. And so Phoenix as an exercise was able to do that for that big monologue, and it really comes off as very heartfelt. And for again, it's River Phoenix. So that guy had a preternatural, like, where's this kid? Where is his talent coming from? Another guy that we lost too soon. And the whole movie is like that. The way that he had all the boys like work together and do exercises together, and I think they stayed in a hotel and they, they goofed around together, got into trouble with the hotel staff. They played games like blindfolding each other and walking each other through the hotel, things like that. And Kiefer Sutherland has a quote where he would direct the actors in a way where the quote is that because Reiner is so proficient as an actor, he can allow you to discover a moment when in fact he's telling you what the moment should be. So Reiner growing up and being an All in the Family, right, and being able and Meathead, which is the the persona that he couldn't escape, being an actor and growing up, and obviously he's the son too of Carl Reiner, right, the great comedian. Um, he knows something about how to get good performances out of his, and I think Stand By Me is the movie that really solidified that. I don't know if that makes any sense, Stanford,
Oh,
where
absolutely.
yeah, where it's like, how is he getting these performances out of these kids? And it's
Out of
just
these kids.
the way that he works with them. It's just the way that he talks with them and deals with them, and he just knows what he needs to do to make an actor feel like they're part of the process and they're giving as much as they're being told what to do, that kind of, and I just really feel these 4 kids are so, it's really kind of eerie how good they are and how believable they are and the bond that's built between, and so that's what sticks out. Um, yeah, eh, I love hearing that Kiefer Sutherland and River Phoenix like played guitar. Like as threatening as Kiefer Sutherland is, you know what I mean? Like
I know
seeing
what a
him,
horrible character he is in this film, right?
that's the atmosphere that Reiner created to make them feel like they're all involved. And I think that's where, and I think Spielberg is maybe the greatest director of children, but Rob Reiner is like right there with them, just the way that he's able to pull these emotions. I don't think they hit a false note the whole movie, and that's really what gets me about it.
You know, Darren, in the short story, if do you recall, does it have the same narrative in that there's, you know, the adult version is of the
Gordy, yep,
uh,
it does.
is looking back
Uh-huh.
on okay.
It's
Uh,
pretty much a spot on adaptation, but the way that it feels so wistful and nostalgic when you read the story, and to be able to make it cinematic. I have an issue a lot of times, like, the first couple of Harry Potters are so strict to the
they're
book.
way too strict to the book, is my opinion. You
So
know,
when I yeah,
you can't always do that. I don't think for a
yeah.
successful film adaptation.
So when I
Yeah,
watched the first 2 movies before, Cuarón took over, I'm like, the images that I was seeing in my head are much better than what I'm watching on the screen right now. Like, literalizing it to the point where it feels like you're straitjacketed, like there's no personality other than the author, that kind of thing. It's
yeah, and then
different for
not
s it's different for Stand By Me because it feels like, "Oh, feels like it should be adapted." And
yeah.
so it doesn't feel that way. I don't it's kind of a hypocritical thing to say. I can't really put my finger on it, but I do think the nostalgia works for this one where Harry Potter does not.
You know, I'm glad you bring up that Harry Potter point because, yeah, not trying to sound. I know that a lot of people, in a way, what a hard spot Chris Columbus was in, and the team. And here they've got one of the most beloved books of the time period,
Yeah.
and you know, if they left something out, people would be upset. Yet they put everything in, and then you know, dudes like me are upset.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't never upset about it. But I just thought, you know,
Yeah.
this movie could be cut down by about 40 minutes
Yeah.
and we'd be great, you know. And then also you just can't include every little step that a person takes, you know. I don't
Not
think
how
for a
movies work.
successful
Yeah.
adaptation. Do you think though part of it was because this was a short story too? I mean, do you think that was part of it? I mean, as far as being able to successfully adapt it into a film.
Yeah, I mean, they don't talk about Mickey Mouse being a real person, or Superman being a real person versus Mickey Mouse, like in the book. So they do expound on a lot of stuff. And yeah, there's a difference between Gordy talking about the pukeathon, where I can't remember what they call
Yeah,
it.
the pukeathon. Yeah.
When you actually see it happen, there's a difference, being able to watch the barf. I'm not getting them anyway, but you get to see that play out, and so it's very funny seeing. I I I think maybe the difference is, and we'll talk about this with maybe the next movie, is that it's a childlike movie. It's very innocent the way that it's
Yes,
shot.
the
There's
way it,
nothing
yeah, everything, the way it looks, yeah.
nothing pretentious about it.
And it's so interesting too. I mean, we can look at it now, and you just look at these actors, like you're saying, you know,
Yeah.
what a cast he put together,
Yeah.
and what great, just these terrific performances, and this really meaningful film. I think too. I mean, I enjoyed the whole film, but wow, that last part where I mean, just that line about your childhood friends.
Yeah.
Um,
Never
I
had
think we
any.
probably all could have, in some ways, can relate to that too. I think in a lot of ways it could be very a universal thing. And
Well, yeah. The thing that's so great about this movie is you're watching it and you're experiencing like you're one of the boys. They're just doing something. We all did stuff like that during the summer, right? We'd all
yeah,
go on
absolutely.
adventures and try to be adult, that kind of thing. And when they find the Brower
They
body,
find the body.
it affects them in a weird way where everything's changed and everything comes into focus. And
Yeah,
it's the same thing when you're watching the movie where when it's, Dreyfus is doing the narration, the voiceover, and he's talking about what happened to the kids, and they drifted apart, and then he tells the story about Chris and how he overcame his impediments and was able to become a lawyer, and because he was such a peacemaker, ended up dying in a fast food restaurant because he tries to come between two people who are arguing. It becomes so, I don't know, I wanna say sad or bittersweet, and when you see the Dreyfus character, as an adult, and he's got his own kid, and he writes that final line and shuts his computer down, and then the Benny King music starts, and he goes,
yeah,
you see him playing with his kids like he's broken the chain of how his parents treated him. Now he's a good dad, even though he gets distracted. That really hits you. When that song hits and starts to play, you start to feel bittersweet, and I think that's where the real strength of the movie is it really kinda sneaks up on you in the end.
yeah. I absolutely agree. And the whole Benny King thing, I thought was a smart move. You know, not only to name the movie after it, but then just to put that very, that song that we already No, this well established, well known pop hit that
Nostalgic.
really that
Yeah.
yeah it is. It just delivers. And
And I
such
guess go ahead,
no,
sorry.
please after you.
Well, again, I wanna mention it's Thomas Del Ruth that did the cinematography for this. There's when they're out trying to outrun the train, it looks so harrowing and visceral, but they did it with a long lens so that the train is way back. The way that they're shooting it, looks like it's right there bearing down on them, and so I'm really impressed by that. But the
Me
other thing
too.
about Stand By Me is this got an R rating, which I get 'cause they swear and it's kind of I guess the puke-a-thon or whatever gets kind of
Yeah, exactly.
gross or it counts as violent somewhere. I think I read a parental site where, oh, they're throwing up, so that's violence. It's like, okay, I didn't.
Okay, yeah,
But I think it's interesting that Del Ruth did this because he also did the cinematography for The Breakfast Club the year before this, which also got an R rating. I think the rating system is very strange because kids should be able to see Stand By Me. That's a representation of them. Breakfast Club, that is a representation of
that is my high school right
yeah.
there. You know,
No matter what
absolutely.
bad words they're using, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's a so I think when you slap an R rating on that, you are limiting the audience that it's meant for. Yeah, they're saying bad words, but that's where I think the rating system is strange because it's, watch with a parent, like, whenever bad words come up in our house, my kids are always like, "We hear worse things than that, Dad," like, in our hallways, so it's
yeah,
not like but I just think that the R rating kinda limits it in a way where you should be able to watch this stuff and not be told this isn't for you.
yeah. Really excellent point. Excellent point. So here now we're going to go to 1987 when The Princess Bride came out. I mean, and honestly, this is one of my favorite films. I think it's definitely in my top 25 and probably the most quotable film. And I think it's just a film that just my friends and I loved
Yeah.
and endlessly watchable, endlessly quotable, incredible script by William Goldman based on his
Mm.
book.
Which is a great book. Have you read the book, The Princess Bride?
Yes, yes.
So funny.
It's so fun. And I adore this movie, Darren. What are your thoughts on it?
It's okay, so here's what I was talking about, is when I think of my favorite movies, for some reason, I don't think of The Princess Bride. It doesn't, like, show up in my like, immediately pop into my head, but then when I come across The Princess Bride in daily life or something, I'm like, "That's one of my favorite movies." It's a weird kind of like, I don't think it makes that much of an impact unless I actually think about it, and then I'm like, "I have to have that on a list," because like you said, there's just a sense of humor. Stanford, I hope you know what I mean when I say there's certain points in certain movies where it's got you and you realize, "Oh, this movie is made
Yeah.
for me," right?
Yep.
And
Exactly.
everything's been great and it's been funny, and there's a line that kills me. It's when Vicini and Fezzik and, Inigo have finally made it to the top of the Cliffs of Insanity. They're waiting for the Man in Black to climb up, and Vicini walks off with Fezzik and Buttercup and leaves Inigo, and they have that argument, and it starts being funny where he's like, "Look, this I appreciate what you're trying to do, but this is, like, more difficult than it looks, so please just let me do this," right? And they're very civil with each other, but then finally when Inigo pulls him up, and then he goes, "I don't mean to pry, but you wouldn't happen to have 6 fingers on your right hand." And Wesley Llewellyn, sorry, he's not Wesley yet, but the Man in Black looks at him, looks at Inigo, and he says completely dry, "Do you always begin conversations this way?" Like, and the first time I heard that, I was like, "Oh, this movie has me." I laughed so hard because the way that it built to that moment and the dry delivery of Elway,
Right.
it's the every that's this and Monty Python on the Holy Grail are probably in my mind, the 2 most quotable movies of all time.
Yes, and yes. I absolutely agree. The That's such yeah, I mean, there's not really a bad line in this movie, and also the ensemble that was put together for this, it's just such a winning cast.
Yeah.
Uh, what I, if I'm not mistaken, Darren? I know that Carrie Elwes wrote a book about the
Yes, he did.
making of this film that came out within the last 5 years or something. It seems like it hasn't been too terribly long. Does that sound right? Does that ring? Does that sound
Yeah,
right to you?
I think it's called, As You Wish, and it's got a foreword by
Yeah,
Rob Reiner. Yeah, yeah.
and it just sounds like that. Just the production of the film too just was a blast
Yeah.
from what, and then it shows. Just because I mean everything I think about Billy Crystal and Carol Kane, the Have Fun Storming the Castle. I mean all this, all the things. And Christopher Guest is such a fantastic villain.
Right.
Everybody's great, I think, in this film. What do you think about the cast in this film?
Everybody is so pitch perfect in this. I can't like the thing. I'll get to what I really love about this movie in a second, but I have, it sounds weird. I have movies on my phone that when I'm out working and driving, I can play these movies. Most people listen to music, but I'm so movie obsessed. I'm more of a movie slut than you, I guess. Stanford, is I have movies on my phone that I can listen to, and I know them by heart, so
I
I
love
can
it.
remember what the image is. And Princess Bride is one, and so I put that on this week as I was working. And what impressed me this time was every character has a different voice,
Yeah.
like not just a literal voice or an accent, but a different way that they talk. Wesley, like I said, talks very dry. Inigo is very noble. That scene where they're fighting each other and they're so chivalrous with each other, it's so charming.
It
That they're
is.
and it's just the way that it's written, how you know that Vicini's the bad guy and Fezzik and Inigo are kind of the pawns because they're put upon. They never fight back. They're never bitter. They're never like evil like Vicini is, right? Although Wallace Shawn is more funny than evil, but
Wallace Shawn.
but it's so charming the way that they get you in Fezzik and Inigo's corner, even though they're kidnapping Buttercup at the time, right? And when they come back and they all team up with Wesley to storm that castle, it's so fun and so satisfying. But again, everybody has such a different, unique voice where it comes to, what is it, the impressive clergyman, Peter Couey? It's Melrose. Melrose is what
brings us together today.
And when you hear his voice, it kills you because you're like, I did not expect that.
You're expecting it. Yeah.
The whole movie, it's so unique. And I know we make fun of the MCU sounding very Joss Whedon-ish, like everybody's quippy, and everybody sounds the same. I think everybody's funny in this, but everybody sounds so different.
Yeah, they're all different.
They're distinct.
And again, I'm just thinking of like Andre the Giant, and just adore Mandy Patinkin. It's just they're all so. Oh, and Robin Wright is just luminous in this.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, even she's like, I don't mean to make her sound, but she's like the dopey princess type.
Absolutely, yeah.
She fits that the style of the story that's being told.
She does. I think there's such a big advantage of this that William Goldman was able to write the screenplay for his book. I think that is just, to me, that's what I think is probably the main reason why all the actors have those, those different voices, just because it's written so well.
Yeah.
But then again, I think Rob Reiner is pulling these performances out, right, of all these different actors and making this just absolutely crazy comedy work in such a charming way.
It's hard when you're casting a movie or when you're filming a movie. Sometimes an actor doesn't feel like they know what's going on. Like I think of like Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, where everybody's so different. And again, it kind of ties in with what The Princess Bride is, like the sword fighting, kind of the old timey kind of action adventure feel. But everybody's acting style is so different that everybody feels like they're in a different movie. Like especially Alan Rickman, and whatever movie Alan Rickman is in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, that's the movie I'd rather be watching at the time, right?
Yeah.
Than whatever else is going on. But I think everybody, when you get that William Goldman script, and it's just got, like I said, it's got this sense of humor with the "Do you always been conversations this way?" It's got that specific humor. Rob Reiner is very funny. He grew up. Obviously we talked about this as Spinal Tap. You hire the right people. I don't know if Carrie Elways has given a performance as good as this. Every line is so funny that even when he says Australia, like it's so funny. It's just pitched so perfect. And everybody in this movie knows what they're there for. And they hit that note again. There's not a false note in this movie. I say all the time that there's no such thing as a perfect movie, because I think that's more of an experience than, sometimes a shot won't match, like continuity won't match, right? Nothing is perfect. But I think The Princess Bride is a perfect movie.
I do too. I think it's a perfect movie. I've classified that as well too, Darren. It's perfect. It's a perfect movie. Yeah.
And what makes it a masterpiece for me, I don't use that word lightly. A masterpiece has to, oh, first of all, it has to have time to kind of settle and grow and affect other things, but it also has to have something in it that's more than, oh, that was just fun. It has to have something more that you kind of attach yourself to. And when I was growing up, my one flaw with the movie was that I think it looks fake. Like you can tell the backgrounds look fake.
Oh,
Everything looks like
absolutely. It's
a set,
totally on
right?
this sound stage and all.
The
Yeah.
Mark Knopfler
Oh
score
my
sounds
gosh, that
very like
score.
silent score-ish, right?
Yes.
And so that was always a drawback for me, like, "Well, it looks fake, right? I wish you would sell me." But there was one time, I think it was maybe 10 years ago, where I was watching it, and suddenly it clicked, where the movie is told by the grandfather to the grandson. And what's happening is, as the grandfather is reading, everything that's going on that you're looking at is from the grandson's perspective. He's what?
Yeah.
10 years
Yeah, 9
old?
or 10 years old.
So that is how he's going to picture the movie, right? Like Adrian Biddle did the cinematography for this one, and yeah, it does look like everything's backdroppy, but when you're that young, that's how you're gonna picture the story. That's how it's going to sound
Yeah.
music-wise, and I
Yeah.
just think it just clicked, and I was like, "That is perfection." Even the
Absolutely.
aesthetics of it is just so good.
These creative choices are just so impressive, and also this is a movie that mostly I just laugh and just feel great, but also
Yeah.
I get emotional in 2 spots every time. When
Okay.
finally, uh, Inigo Montoya kills the
Rugen, yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I want my father back, you son of a bitch,
Oh,
that
yeah.
just
What a line.
I I don't know why. I mean, I get really emotional on that just because I think it just because finally it's almost like this incredible sense of relief, even
Yeah.
though this has been comedic and etc. and these great acting that and then just as you mentioned, so Peter Falk, um, could that stuff be any cuter?
Yeah,
With
no.
Freddie Savage, I mean, it's just what that those are so great. I mean, is this a kissing book and all that stuff? I mean, it's so great.
Well,
But
the other one that always kills me is the, "See, didn't I tell you she'd never marry that rotten apple?" Yes, you're very smart. Shut up. Or I
that
love the part where Wesley dies and and the grandson freaks out. "Meanie wins? Jeez, grandpa, why'd you read me this for?" Yeah, everything is just pitched so great.
you
It's
know
so, and the "as you wish" line at the very end,
that
that
fine. I was gonna say that's the second one too that gets me every time. That as you wish is just
love
about
it.
as tender and perfect way to end the film.
Right,
Uh,
right.
so great. What a what a classic! What a great gift they all gave us, and
A
particularly Rob
gift.
Reiner.
Yes. Mhm.
And then also again, just these genres, Darren. That's what we're talking about. This, what would you call the Princess Bride? Kind of like a fantasy,
Oh my gosh,
fairy
notoriously,
tale.
they couldn't advertise. How do you advertise
Yeah.
with that
How in the
movie?
world do you promote this film?
'Cause it's
Yeah.
everything, you know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like revenge, sword fight, love.
Swashbuckler.
Oh my gosh. I think this is one of those movies, it has a history like it. We look at the box office as kind of the significator of what makes a success, and I don't think that's right because there are some terrible movies that have made over
That made lots of
$1 billion,
money.
right?
Absolutely.
This is the
Absolutely.
kind of movie that you watch it and you're like, you tell your friend, "Have you seen The Princess Bride? Let's sit down and watch
Yeah,
this."
you need
That's
to
how
watch.
you
You've
get
got to
people
watch
watching.
this movie. Yeah. In fact,
But
I
how
want to.
how do you put that in a trailer, Stanford? It's
Yeah,
impossible.
it's impossible. Word of mouth, right? I guess as we're talking about it. So this next film,
Mm.
talking about something completely different. This is from 1989. It's When Harry Met Sally. I
Wow.
think one of the greatest romantic comedies ever made,
I
at
think,
least in the modern day.
yeah, of the last 40 years, I was looking at the list, this is hands down to me the greatest and most influential romantic comedy of all time. The last time I watched it was maybe 5 years ago, and this is the movie I decided to watch today,
Oh,
and
excellent! Yeah,
the last time I watched it, I was like, "I think that might be the greatest romantic comedy of this century and maybe the last, 40, 50 years." And then today when I watched it, I was like, "How many movies after this, how many rules did it establish? How many tropes did it establish? And all these other romantic comedies are just pretenders to the throne." And
yeah,
as much as I love a
exactly.
lot of them, they're all trying to be, I guess the closest one might be Moonstruck, because I love
Oh
Moonstruck,
my gosh, I love Moonstruck
but
so
it's
much.
still not quite this. And it's really wanted to dig in and talk with you about what makes this one so special.
Well, I'm excited to talk with you about you, and I'm so glad you were able to recently, to rewatch it even today. I think it really starts for me with Nora Ephron
Yep.
uh, writing it. What a I mean, just what a pro she is, and to have Rob Reiner and Nora Ephron, working on this together, I thought, I mean, what a winning team, because there's so much of Nora Ephron's work that I admire. There's just something about I think she's really unmatched in sophisticated, modern day romantic comedies.
Right.
But then you get this incredible cast,
Which is basically just 4 people, right?
right? Exactly. And Meg Ryan, who really, just kind of became the queen of the rom com, right? But well deserved. Yeah. And Billy Crystal. What were your thoughts on it when you were watching it today, dear?
Well, again, there were it follows so many tropes, and again, you're talking about watching things within context, right? Yeah, you had the Philadelphia Story, you had Adam's Rib, you had I guess City Lights counts as a romantic comedy. All these movies that the classics that you think, Philadelphia Story, that you think of, these great romantic comedies. Shop Around the Corner, I really want to mention
Shop
that.
Around the Corner. It Happened One Night.
It happened one night. Yeah, absolutely. Best Picture winner, right? And so you think of all that, and then they kind of settle into a groove. And I think When Harry Met Sally is the one that kind of shocked everybody back into, oh, a romantic comedy can actually be about something. It seems very trivial when you listen to their conversations. It's, what are they talking about? Like, they talk about Casablanca, like Harry said. They talk about like men can't have best friends, that kind of women that are best friends, that kind of thing, because they always want to sleep with them. That always kind of, it breaks that kind of bond there. It's trivial stuff, but what this teaches you about romantic comedies, it's about getting to know the person that you're falling in love with, right? At the very end, when Harry tells her, "I love all these things about you. I love that it takes you an hour to order a sandwich. I love that, and you're the last person that I want to talk to when I go to sleep. You're the first person I want to when I wake up."
Yeah.
That's what you realize when you fall in love, right? And that's what it's teaching you, all those things. It gets you to that point. So every conversation that they have, I don't think is trivial, because you're getting to know them inside and out. And you see, I love the little bits where there's a New Year's Eve party where she shaves his beard and they dance really close, and they have a moment with like, uh-oh, like, we're feeling something. Do we break this bond that we've got with romance or whatever? And you see them later at a party where they see each other with other dates, and you can tell that they're jealous. It's that kind of build where you can tell they're in love. And they have, where she breaks down because her past lover is getting married, and he didn't want to marry her, and what's wrong with her, and they end up going to sleeping with each other, and it's a mistake because they weren't ready for it. It just kind of happens, and how do you deal with that after? All that stuff is so baked into what relationships are. And I think that's something that's what I mean in romantic comedies. They're trying for that. In most romantic comedies, you're going to have like the third act or end of the second act confusion, where there's something that breaks up the couple, right? Where there's somebody else that comes in and kind of ruins the relationship, and they have to get over it. When Harry Met Sally doesn't have that. The only thing that's keeping Harry and Sally apart are their neuroses.
Are you shouting right? I was going to say, Sally just have neurotic each other more.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
their own personal foibles. It doesn't seem melodramatic or written in that way. It seems very real, and that's why today I was like, man, this I wish more romantic comedies were this honest and this sincere.
I agree. I really wish that romantic comedies would be focused more like on this type of thing, because also it's it's in a way very kind of intellectual too, because it's not just all about a snowy evening walking down, on a little charming main street, in some small town. I mean,
Right.
New York also, I think, plays a role, and that I feel like in some ways New York is a character, and I believe that I attribute that to Nora Ephron too. But again, maybe it's Rob Reiner, or maybe it's some of the other with the just the production design, etc. But given that it's set in New York too, I love everything. I love everything about that. I'm thinking about like the Christmas tree scene and all those different things
Yeah.
that you wouldn't that you seems like a big part of what's life like in the big city.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's cool that I haven't thought about that before. I love that you've got mail kind of hits this is what New York is like. Hank's telling Meg
Yes.
Ryan, I don't want you to be sick. It would be a shame for you to be and miss New York during the spring, right? And they get the farmers markets and all that stuff. And then the other, it seems odd. The other movie, since my family lived in New York and I would go there every summer, the other movie that really gets New York and doesn't treat it like a cartoon is Die Hard with a Vengeance.
Yes.
The whole attitude of everybody in that movie is so, I'm like, every moment I'm like, that's New York. Like they really nailed that. It's everybody has their own quirks and their own little fun. What I thought was interesting here, and again, it's weird because it's Barry Sonnenfeld doing the cinematography for this.
Isn't that, it was just so interesting too, right? Yeah.
And it's
I wouldn't have known that
because there's nothing at all that's over the top or overbearing in this, which is more recognizable even in the next movie we're going to talk about. It's more of a Barry Sonnenfeld looking picture.
Yeah.
But the fact that I love the idea that when you see that the most famous shot is Harry and Sally walking through the park and it's fall and you've got the leaves everywhere. It's so romantic. How it's a romantic image, but the irony of that is you have two people who don't realize that there's romance going on. So the cinematography comments a lot on the irony of these two people that are meant for each other not feeling the romance of what the image is, and any other romantic comedy would be making you feel.
Yeah. Well said. And we mentioned about it. Basically, it's just four actors. In this film who are great. I mean, I love Carrie Fisher in this movie.
Oh, it's so great seeing her. I miss her. Yeah,
I do too. And she's just. I mean, and again, Nora Ephron gives her perfect words to say, but she delivers them, I think, in a perfect way.
I think it helps that Carrie Fisher was a screenwriter herself and helped.
Yes, scripts. Absolutely. And Bruno Kirby is terrific too, I think.
It's good to see him.
Yeah,
he was in this Spinal Tap. He was a limo driver.
Oh, that's right.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, please, just say which I love. That's so funny.
Well, you talk about this being collaborative, like with Carrie Fisher, right? You talk about Reiner being an actor's director, right? The most famous scene in this movie is the diner scene, right? The fake orgasms.
Yeah.
Right?
Katz's Delicatessen. And in fact, have you been there? I mean,
I haven't.
I have, and what they have is a sign above the table with an arrow pointing down to say, "This is the table," because I think a lot of people want to eat, at the table.
Or Meg Ryan embarrassed Billy Crystal.
Yeah, it's just hilarious.
It's a really funny scene because again, it's them talking and you're getting to know who they are. Like, oh, I know I pleased a woman, right? Oh, do you? It's like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. And Sally's like, oh, because you're a man, right? Because and she goes on to what's funny on the surface about it is how she starts making noises, and Harry. The look on Billy Crystal's face, how he doesn't understand what she's doing at first, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And the longer she goes, you see this look come over him. Like, oh, I get it.
I know that look on his face.
He commits so hard that all he can do is just sit there and just take the beating. Right?
Exactly.
You start seeing everybody else start looking. There's the guy that sits behind Meg Ryan, kills me because he doesn't look at her. He looks at Harry almost to say, "What did you do to make her do this? Like, why is this happening?" And then it ends obviously with that great line.
Great line. Yeah.
I'll have what she. Classic scene with a great punchline. Great punchline.
It's so great.
But when you hear the story of how they did it, I think originally, and again, Billy Crystal, when he came on board, he added a bunch of stuff, improvisations, things like that. He's a comedy writer. Carrie Fisher obviously could add stuff to help her character feel better. Meg Ryan, there's a scene where Billy Crystal is improvising, making these funny noises, and you can tell it's so funny because Meg Ryan just isn't ready. She doesn't know how to react, but she reacts in a way that's so cute and heart and adorable and charming, right? Because she's being charmed by this guy, and that's again part of the romance. But she was never part of the improvising, but they did decide during one part that we need to let Sally talk about something. We are just hearing Harry talk. What if we let her talk? And then I think Efron said, well, we could have her talk about fake orgasms. And Ryan was like, let's do that. Let's write it in the script. So they did that. So, but Meg Ryan was the person who was like, I'm going to do the fake orgasm. I'll just do it. Right. And so I think they did it multiple takes of it. So she contributed. And then the line at the end where it's Rob Reiner's mom that says, I'll have what she's having. Billy Crystal wrote that line. That's not a Nora Ephron line. You know what I mean? It's when you hear all that story, it's like that is a collaborative effort
Yeah,
to give you
collaborative.
a classic scene. And I would honestly put that, it seems a weird comparison, but the way that the Quint monologue in Jaws, how everybody contributed to that moment. It's not just the writer, it's not just Robert Shaw, it's not just Spielberg, it's everybody working together to deliver that moment. This scene, the diner scene, equals that because it's about the collaborative effort to pull off a classic scene. You just can't attribute it to one person. It's everybody working. And I love that.
That's such cool background, Darren. Thanks for sharing that. One of the many things I love about this film too are the little interspersed vignettes of these older couples.
Oh yeah.
And they seem so real. I'm sure that they're all actors, you know.
They are. The conversations were real, but they had character actors reenactment. But they're so awkward that I was like, are these people real? They seem real to me.
Isn't it a cool way though to have this, you know, a cool addition into a romantic comedy? It feels like it was a fresh idea that I thought they aced it. What was your opinion on that?
Yeah, again, it's nice having that as a kind of a focal point to see where, because they're talking about their relationships and how they met. I love that scene where they bring Marie and Jess, like they're gonna have Harry and Sally date, and they end up like jumping in a cab together. Even that, I was like, that would have been a cool story. I was waiting for them to show up and say, "Oh, we actually were set up to be with our friends, but we ended up being with each other." That even works into that. I love seeing all, and when it's Harry and Sally at the end talking, I think that was even improvised, them just talking and feeling like an actual couple. And so I love that they have that perspective of, yes, romances aren't just about meeting when you're young and then it's all about the love and how youthful you are. It's romance lasts forever, right? And that's, I think, and it gets better and it builds and it grows in different ways. And having these old couples comment is just a beautiful way to comment on that. I think it really helps the movie.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like it's kind of the icing on the cake of this really just absolutely brilliant romantic comedy. And again, having mentioned all these different genres that are going on.
Well, he'd done The Sure Thing, so it's not like it was his first romantic comedy. But I as much as I love The Sure Thing, I think this is the one that just made a stamp.
Yeah, absolutely. Were there any other things that really stood out to you today, Darren, when you were rewatching this film?
Again, it's just the way that was the main thing today was the conversations seem trivial. And as the antithesis to this, there's a movie called The Story of Us that Rob Reiner directed later. It's got
Later
and Michelle Pfeiffer, and it kind of strives for the same attitude,
same sort of thing. Yeah,
just kind of talking and riffing.
And I love Michelle Pfeiffer so much, but
the way that I say that When Harry Met Sally is not trivial because you're getting an insight in how these people think. Every line of dialogue in The Story of Us just rings so hollow to me and always has. And I think it's even Rob Reiner is trying to strive for When Harry Met Sally, and it just doesn't work. Maybe it's the Efron thing, but there's literally a line where Willis and Reiner are talking about a different word for the word butt. And how we can't, what is a butt? It should be just the top of your legs. That's a joke. And later in the movie, Willis gets mad and he yells at Reiner and goes, so I want you to take that. I want you to stick it up the top of your legs. And it's like, that's not a funny line.
Yeah, it's not funny.
So I just don't understand how you can fall off. Or I guess I can, like, not every movie's going to hit. Like sometimes you're going to hit the right material, the right people working with it. And like you said, there's an 11-year stretch where Reiner was just hitting everything out of the park and you can't really keep that up. You know what I mean? And so that's the main thing I noticed. It's like everything seems trivial, but not to these people. Not when you're in a romantic, you're building a romance with, you're falling in love with somebody. It's not trivial to you then. And I think this movie just captures that idea so perfectly, pitch perfectly.
And I think too, it was one of those romantic comedies to me that clearly it's stylized and a bit idealized, but it also felt real.
Yeah.
That the issues that these two were facing with each other seemed real. I mean, again, it's a screenplay, it's a movie, and it's not necessarily real life, but it's not just like some weird or some fantasy or something of like people you just can't relate to.
Yeah.
For me, and maybe it was just the time of life when I saw it too. As I was just kind of young and out of college and dating. It just all seemed like, yeah, this movie really makes
Right.
sense to me. It speaks to me.
And then just one line. I know we're talking a lot about this movie, but just to get personal for a sec, I know that, they talk about how women can't be friends with men, that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
later Ryan said that, oh, I've got many guys who are friends, and Billy Crystal said, I have women who are friends, but not close friends, right? When I was growing up and we did an episode, our last Mohicans episode that we did for Nostalgia Cast, just barely, my childhood friend Jenny came out and talked about that movie with us. Jenny is my Sally without the romance. We met each other in junior high school and we were each other's sounding boards. We were just like Harry and Sally, where we would stay up through the night just chatting with each other, watching TV. Like we wouldn't want to hang up because it was our best friend to chat with, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, we'd show up at movies together and we'd hold hands every now and then. So we flirted with building to something else, but it just never came to fruition. And in a way, I'm glad. I'm sad, but I'm glad that it didn't, if that makes, because we would have been like I said, like Harry and Sally, but maybe the friendship would have been. I much prefer that the friendship that Jenny and I had growing up,
Well,
because
exactly.
yeah,
Because
grew up nice.
I think in some ways there's some truth to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as
So that really hit me
with the
today.
friend
Yeah,
stuff, and then the sex stuff really gets in the way with that.
absolutely, absolutely.
Um, such a brilliant film. Just absolutely adore it. Can't wait to watch it again. So here we are now. We're jumping a year later.
A
It's
year
not
later.
1 year later.
Wow.
Misery comes out,
Mhm.
which is full blown. I mean, the most psychological horror movie. That movie scared the crap out of me. Because again, I think in a lot of ways, because it's also based on a Stephen King novel, but in some ways, it just felt like, yeah, like this can really happen. Like
Yeah.
some of those slasher movies and stuff, not that I'm by no means a horror. I'm not a horror person in any way, but
Right.
I don't know. There was just something about this movie that was truly terrifying
Right.
to me. And then again, just a tribute to Rob Reiner that he's going. I mean, look at this genre that he's making.
Yeah.
Kathy Bates won an Academy Award for her performance, which is well deserved.
Heck yeah, she did. Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take on Misery, Darren?
I am like horror. I guess I'm a more horror person than not a horror person. Like Jaws is the scariest movie I've ever seen
Oh
because
my
it gets
gosh,
my phobias.
Jaws is so scary.
I love the original Halloween, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The original one is maybe the scariest movie I've ever seen because it feels like a snuff film, and it's because that movie famously doesn't show you any gore. You're imagining the
Yeah,
gore
you're
here in the jaw.
imagining it.
That's worse, but you can smell the rotting flesh because it feels like you're that's I love that. So I'm more of a, it sounds bad, I'm more of an artistic kind of, I love it when they're more artistic. And Carpenter's Halloween is more suspenseful, and they use the steady cam and the widescreen to hide things from you. And I love that it's more eerie than out and out scary. But when I watched Misery, and I read Stephen King, it's funny when you're growing up, Stanford, that you're not allowed to watch R-rated movies, but you can buy Stephen King books.
I know.
They've got some of the worst, most disgusting, violent, sexual stuff in, and you have free access to that.
You can just, exactly. No, limits on that. Holy cow.
When I first saw Misery, I've told this story before. I would go out to New York every summer, and my grandpa, he knew I loved movies, so every day we would go out and we would rent a movie. And from again, video stores. We've talked about those
Yes.
those ancient things
Yes.
before, right, Stanford?
Absolutely.
So we rented, and he wouldn't always watch every movie with me. So I remember putting Misery on. We rented Misery. We put it on upstairs, and I was all by myself. And I'm not really a horror person. I'm when you hit that. I think when Misery came out, I was at the age where I was like, oh, that's not scary because I could tell it's a movie and that kind of stuff.
Right.
And there's the way that it builds, the way that he's Paul is captured, and the way that Annie, it slowly dawns on you that she's unsettled,
That
right? She's not right.
something is not right with this woman. Yeah.
And it gets to a point where, again, he's hobbled in a wheelchair because he was in a car crash. Annie leaves the house at one point, and he wanders the house to find out what's going on. And there's this, which I don't really like in movies because that suspense kills me. It's just so too tense for me.
It
But
says that
when
something's going to pop out or
yeah,
something,
yeah.
there's going to be a jump scare and all this stuff. Yeah.
But I remember specifically when Annie is coming back and Paul has to get back in that room. I remember being genuinely tense and scared at that point.
Oh, absolutely.
I
Terrified.
It's just because I think it is because of the way that Rob Reiner is serving that material. He knows he's making a horror movie. He knows how to make a movie and how to make a horror movie. He knows how to build suspense because he's that good at serving the material. And so I just thought genuinely, this is really tense, and it's working on me because of the performances, because of the way, again, it's Sonnenfeld. It has the weird off-kilter shots that it's got the Dutch angle at a couple points to let you know something's not right, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And I think out of all the movies, I think Misery is the one that maybe we'll dive into the least. But even though there's the personal thing about how Rob Reiner said he always tried to escape the meathead persona, and that's what Paul Sheldon is trying to do. He's trying to escape the misery persona, right? So there's a personal kind of thing in there. But I think it really goes overboard at the end, where it does become one of those slasher movies where we say that it isn't. You know what I mean? Where you think she's dead and she's not, but
And she's not. Yeah, that final battle between the two of them.
it's over
Right?
the top, but it's satisfying. You know, when I think of the scariest moments in there, I think of that when he's lurking around the house, or the hobbling scene is just so genuinely harrowing. And when you see her actually take the sledgehammer to his ankle,
I was going to say, when she breaks his ankles, I mean, that for me I still am like scarred for life,
your brain is like, did I actually see that?
I know. And then just the camera angles and everything, about that. Again, no wonder Kathy Bates won the Academy Award. Well, James Caan is terrific in it too. I mean, because it's basically just the two of them in this film, right?
Yep.
And he's great. I had wondered too, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. I love the use of the typewriter. Do you think was this cathartic for Stephen King or something? Too, just the way the story
when he was writing the book, it had to do with his addiction to drugs and things.
Yeah.
Like that. So.
The also, to mention that William Goldman, did it was adapted screenplay for this too, and I think
he's on, man.
Yeah,
I love
that he did a good job, but I think too. Again, I'm just in awe of Rob Reiner's ability to 1 year create one of the best romantic comedies ever made, and then the next year to create a pretty legit psychological horror film.
Yeah, I don't think this is the greatest horror movie ever made.
No, I don't think so either.
He made a gosh dang horror movie. He made
a horror movie that was pretty scary and solid. It's a good movie. Memorable movie. Well, actually kind of an unforgettable movie in a lot of ways. Maybe a lot of that's Kathy Bates, but still, oof. So we jump now from a horror movie to a very compelling courtroom drama.
Wow.
I mean, seriously. So If You Could Mend, 1992. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, 1992. And what a fine film this is.
Yeah. Phenomenal movie.
It's an amazing movie. This incredible cast. And that Act 3 stuff, and that those when finally the truth comes out and Jack Nicholson is just absolutely busted. You can't handle the truth. So all that. Demi Moore is so good in this. Anyway, this is just such a fine film. What's been your experience with A Few Good Men? What's your take on it, dear?
Well, first I want to mention that he already had worked with William Goldman, right? And now it's another phenomenal writer, Aaron
Sorkin.
Right. Before he got I think Aaron Sorkin maybe got too caught up in his politics, where that became his whole personality, and it was less about the fun writing that you find here.
Yeah.
Right. And in another movie we're going to cover after this. But first of all, we have to mention Aaron Sorkin because it's a voice, right?
Yeah.
And I love that Rob Reiner in this is the one that taught him the walk and talk, because dialogue is not cinematic, Stanford, right? We can all agree on that. It's not cinematic to see two people just standing there talking at each other. And When Harry Met Sally, the dullest parts of that movie is when it's just typical back and forth over the shoulder shots. There's no real, but again, it's romantic comedies. I guess you can't expect more than that. I don't know if that's a cop out saying that, but the way that Sorkin writes has so much depth and so much nuance and I guess a thickness to his writing. It's fun watching them talk, but there's a part where Tom Cruise and Kevin Bacon are talking about the case, and Rob Reiner was like, we just can't have them stand there. So let's have them walk down a hallway. I'll add business and stuff like that. And that's where the walk and talk was born, where that's what Sorkin and Thomas Schlamme or whatever would use later for the West Wing.
Yeah.
That trope of the walk and talk. I love that invented that. But my experience with A Few Good Men is I first got obsessed with it in high school. I was in a lot of drama, well, not a lot of drama competitions, but I was in a drama competition where me and my friend Jason actually performed the courtroom scene for A Few Good Men. It was we made it all the way to state, where we competed up in Salt Lake with the scene.
Oh my goodness.
But
I bet that was powerful, man. What a cool experience too.
Even for
those words are great.
Yeah,
I think.
And so that's where I got obsessed with this. There was a point, Stanford, where I had this movie memorized backwards and forwards because I watched it so much. When I was doing my method acting to be Kaffee, right? I even carried around a baseball bat so I could get in the mindset of Daniel Kaffee when we were getting ready to perform, so when we were rehearsing, things like that. But I knew this movie backwards and forwards, and I got obsessed watching the movie over and over again. And so that's where my kind of first experience with it was, and how I got attached to it. But this is one of those movies where they really don't make movies like this anymore, real crowd pleasers. At least movies that make it to theaters, it feels like, because everything's going to streaming. If they were to release A Few Good Men today, and it kills me, it would probably, unless you got Tom Cruise pushing to make it in the theaters, it would go straight to streaming.
Yeah.
Maybe every single one of these movies that we've talked about would go straight to streaming. And I know I saw Misery on home video, but watching a lot of these the experience of just watching these movies, Princess Bride, obviously I didn't get to see it in the theater, but watching it on video and the word of mouth catching that, it's like we all watch movies in different ways, but I just can't imagine not having movies like this show up in our theater screens. That's what Johnny and I, my Nostalgia Cast partner, we grew up on these movies. We cut our teeth on 90s movies because we saw everything.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have that opportunity today because these movies would go straight to your TV screen.
I distinctly remember seeing this film in the theater and just being wowed by it. Really, really moved by this film. And again, just this these incredible performances that I think Rob Reiner is pulling out, but then again, just these great creative choices, and it is kind of, I mean, I don't know how many screenplays Aaron Sorkin wrote before this one, but it is very, you tell it's Aaron Sorkin, right? I mean, this is going to be, this guy had some promise. He was going to go places.
Right.
Well, and then also, the film has such a strong moral compass in it, which I think is satisfying to an audience. At least I felt it was very satisfying to me back in the day, and still to this day. Anytime I see it, I just admire this film so much. I think one of the things I like about it too, like for example, Demi Moore really kind of is this is not a typical role the Demi Moore had, but I thought it really worked for her. What do you think about her performance?
Well, the thing that's we'll talk about Nicholson and Cruise in a bit, but what I love about Demi Moore here is it's not her Aaron Sorkin dialogue. We'll talk about. I don't think Michael Douglas has the tongue for it as much as some other actors.
Yeah, I agree.
Tom Cruise and Nicholson and Demi Moore are
wow.
She has a monologue where she's giving it to Kathy. Like, if you're going to handle this case in the same way that you handle every other case, then something's going to get missed, right? And path of least resistance, all that stuff. She really bites into that dialogue. And what I love about her character as written is she's not a love interest, really.
Yeah, exactly.
They've got an attraction, but I think somebody asked Sorkin at one point, why don't Kathy and Joe fall in love? And Sorkin was like, it's not every woman's responsibility to fall in love with Tom Cruise, right? That's not
that's a great answer. Yeah.
Well, I love she's a foil for him, and yeah, she flirts with him, and they have the will they won't they kind of
right, which makes it interesting. Yeah.
She's just there to push Kathy into the role of taking charge, right? And I think she does that really well.
I do too. I think she's great. And then, of course, we get into just the repartee between Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson, which is unforgettable.
Oh my gosh, Tom Cruise, he doesn't get enough respect for his acting. I know he's the Buster Keaton of our day now. We go to see him watching, in Mission Impossible movies, but
running.
You pit Tom Cruise against Jack Nicholson, he holds his own.
Oh,
you pit Tom Cruise against Philip Seymour Hoffman, he holds his own.
Yeah.
Right. Even though Nicholson and Hoffman are blowing everybody else off the screen, Cruise is still there. It's not like he disappears. Just that, again, the way that Cruise sinks his teeth into that Sorkin dialogue is so good. And you can tell that Tom Cruise is a perfectionist, obviously, right? So you can tell that he practiced at it, but I don't think he hits a false note. I think every line of dialogue is so good for me.
I do too. I think, again, this one of the many strengths of this film is just, the dialogue is so fantastic. And again, we can attribute that to Aaron Sorkin, right? But the actors are delivering it in such a perfect way.
I think Nicholson, during that You Can't Handle the Truth scene, they have to have coverage. Like, they have to show Kevin Bacon, and they have to show Demi Moore and Kevin Pollak reacting.
Yes.
Every time they did that, it wasn't just a reaction. Nicholson would actually deliver the lines of dialogue at full strength to get a reaction from the actor that was on screen. That is awesome to hear.
That is something else, isn't it? What was it like performing, Darren, when you did, when you were doing your drama competition, saying these words and acting that? What was that experience like?
It was so fun. Like, we had a coach that was telling us how to do things. Like, I had to learn I slouch a lot, so I had to make sure that I was standing up straight, almost stiff. I had to have the Cruise. We modeled it after the movie instead of modeling it after the play, which might have been the mistake, but that's where we got our research from. And so it was so fun delivering those lines. And obviously when Jessup gets Kathy gets the upper hand on Jessup, and he breaks down like, I'm gonna rip off the eyes out of your head and piss in your skull, that kind of thing. And he has some choice words, and because we were in high school, we decided not to do that, right? We changed the words. And there was one in I think it was our final or next to final performance, one of the judges was like, was there supposed to be swearing in this? I've seen the movie and I think they're swearing. And we're like, yeah. He's like, I think you should use it. I think it would be powerful enough. And so for our final performance, we actually did use some of the choice.
Use some of the swear words.
We didn't. I think we came in. Somebody told us we came in 4th place. I don't know if there's a 4th place that counts, but I don't know if that kind of turned the judges off. But that's a specific memory that I remember.
Oh, that's cool. And I just think, I bet you guys were great. But what a privilege to say those words is what I think. Just because again.
You can't believe you're saying them. Like,
yeah. Yeah. And I think too, sometimes I think courtroom dramas can be a little dry. I don't know, for lack of a better word, but this movie, I was riveted the whole time.
Yeah.
And do we attribute that to Rob Reiner, or it's all just it all one of those. It all came together like all these other movies that we were talking about.
We've said this we've said this over and over again. Rob Reiner is an actor's director. I think Tom
Yeah,
Cruise said that
yes.
about him. Jack Nicholson loved working with him to the point where he showed up in The Bucket List later, which is another not good Rob
Another one
Reiner
of those not great. Yeah,
movie,
yeah,
right? And I attribute it to, you hear all these backstories about, yeah, you've got a good script, yeah, you've got good actors, but it takes somebody to actually sit them down and go, we need to make this work. The walk and talk, like I said, it makes it more interesting. He uses Robert Richardson as a cinematographer, who's Oliver Stone's guy. So out of all of Reiner's movies, there are some striking images where if you know Richardson's work, you're like, this has to be Robert Richardson, right? It's like the harsh lighting overhead that kind of shadows
yes,
faces, and it's so striking. So many of the images, it's just fantastic. I think you're right. I think it's everything working together, but it has to be Reiner sitting there making it work,
yeah,
being the wrangler and making sure that I'm getting the best acting possible. And yeah, Nicholson surprised him. I love that Nicholson plays such a bastard in this movie, but you hear the behind the scenes stuff about how he got to be really good friends with Cruise, right? And Reiner, I think they ran out of time and they didn't have money to pay Nicholson. And Nicholson told Reiner, "I'll do it. Just whatever you need. You don't understand. I love acting. It's not so much about the money. Let's just do it until we've gotten it right." Right. Which is strange and really, what is the word? Heartwarming and to hear about
yeah,
that.
exactly.
So I know Rob, it's hard because this is a movie that it's a good crowd pleaser. I don't know if there's anything personal about it, but it's gotta be Reiner, Stanford. You know what I mean? Like just
Yeah.
having the depth, the hand to be able to control all this.
One thing too, which we've touched on, but just the supporting cast is great. Kevin Bacon, Kevin Pollak, Kiefer Sutherland, all these different actors that are in it are
Christopher Guest, yeah.
Christopher Guest, absolutely, uh, are really good, aren't
Yeah.
they? Too. I mean, there's just not a weak link at all.
Well,
In
this is another Princess Bride. It's everybody knows what they're there for, and they
yeah,
deliver
yeah.
100%.
So, uh, speaking of Aaron Sorkin, it brings us to our final film of our 7 films that we picked that we love that were directed by Rob Reiner, and it's The American President.
Ooh,
So, that script is so good, and in a way, we were talking a little bit about this before we started recording, but it's almost like it was the prologue to the West Wing TV show,
exactly.
right?
Martin Sheen's in here. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Anna Devere Smith is in here. It's got a lot of his the West Wing's like stalwarts are in here and kind of originated in here.
what's your experience with this film? The
This
American
was
President, and I should say too, just sorry to interrupt you, just it came out a year after, right? So 19 no, actually I'm sorry, it was 3 years after, so 1995. This came out in 1995. Yeah.
right. And this was, I know I sound kind of like a hypocrite because I talk about, hey, movies should be going to streaming, but all these other movies, I wasn't old enough to see them in a theater, so I saw them on home video. Right. Which I think, you listen to, I think Matt Damon was on an episode of Hot Wings where he talked about how the way you earn money, you would earn it not just from theatrical, you would earn it from the home video sales, which streaming cuts into that. People aren't making, actors and filmmakers aren't making as much money today because streaming doesn't pay for the royalties like home
Yeah.
video would or broadcast TV would.
Right.
So
Right.
in a way, I still think going to a Blockbuster or a Hollywood Video or something, or Sounds Easy Pizza, renting a movie, I think that still helps the theatrical experience, even though it's not theatrical, more than streaming would. So just kind of making excuses for something I said earlier, but this was the first Rob Reiner movie that I actually saw in a theater. Like
Okay, excellent.
and it just charmed the pants off.
Yeah, it's so charming. I mean, it's cool because it's a romantic comedy, really,
Yeah.
in a lot of ways, right? But there's politics involved, and
Right.
yeah,
It
it's a
comes
charming
close.
movie.
It comes close. The politics come close to overwhelming the room. It's just we're not there for the politics, or at least I'm not.
Yeah,
But it's nice that it's there because it's a president, right? And they treat it sincerely. But I I know I said that Michael Douglas kind of trips over some of the words, and there he does. Like you listen to some of the dialogue, and he doesn't quite, but he still. enough of a charismatic actor.
Yes, his charisma, right,
It's so
kind
good.
of makes up for
And then
the wordplay.
exactly. Annette Bening is, I think you might have said this about Robin Wright. She is luminous in
She
this.
is luminous. I just absolutely fell in love with Annette Bening in this film.
And I
Yeah.
think it might be the way that John Seale shoots her where
Shoots
it's
her.
soft lighting. She is just gorgeous and cute and funny and
Such a great
heartbreaking.
character. Yeah.
Their meet cute where she yells at him in the Oval Office and tries to walk into the Secret Service room, and how that keeps coming up with her sister, like, "And then you walked into the the wrong door." And then how he calls her up later and she doesn't believe that it's really Andrew Shepherd. He's like, "I forgot to tell you what a nice ass you have." And so he calls her back and says, "Look, Sydney, someone's gonna call you, and when they call you, or I want you to call them, and you're gonna say, 'I wanna speak to the president,' and they'll get you right to me." And she realizes what's going on. All that is it's so charming. I love when they finally are gonna end up in bed together, and he's telling her about the 10-step plan or whatever, and she goes off to get more comfortable, and he's going off all confident, and she comes out wearing his shirt, and he stops. He's like, "Are you nervous?" He's like, "No." He goes, "My nervousness." It works on several different levels. It's so charming and funny, and I know, again, Aaron Sorkin really got caught up in a lot of the politics stuff, but there's a musicality to his dialogue, and that's here. And everybody, Michael J. Fox, I love
Yeah,
hearing him do it.
I know Michael J. Fox is great in this. And then, Richard Dreyfuss is the, kind of the
Oh, the
bad
bad guy.
guy, right?
Yeah.
The opponent, the political opponent.
Right,
Uh,
and he's good too. Like, he is you hate him, right?
yeah, you
Richard Dreyfuss.
absolutely despise this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think this is the same year that Mr. Holland's Opus came out.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Which is maybe my favorite Richard Dreyfuss performance, so it's
Well,
great seeing him do a 1-2 punch here.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Very different types of roles.
Yeah.
I mean, just because what a good actor he is. I love so much about this movie. I thought that um, it was such an interesting take on the president of the United States, in that we've never seen a president of the United States that's a widower
Yeah.
and a single dad, and uh, navigating that, and I think Michael Douglas does it pretty deftly. I think he does a pretty good job. I'm with you about as we've already talked about, with that machine gun dialogue, that Aaron Sorkin writes, but still, what a charming performance, and what a great romance, and what a cool setting for it. And I'm with you. The politics could almost sink the ship, yet just again, the charm of these actors and the charm of the story elevate it.
Yeah, I love it. I think out of all the movies that we've covered, this one, I'm gonna say it's flawed, but it's really not. The part that loses me in the script is I love how we see what Andrew Shepherd is doing, right? And we see what Sydney Ellen Wade, what she's thinking and her interactions with other people. It's a very two protagonist type story, right?
Yes,
We
yes,
know exactly what each of them are thinking. There's no
yeah, what they
secrets being
want,
kept.
yeah,
But there comes a moment where the politics really, and again, he's made a deal with her that he's trying to get votes or whatever, and he ends up lying to her and going behind her back to do stuff. And at that moment, and it's I get that it's part of the romantic, like we talked about with When Harry Met Sally, there's always going to be some kind of twist that breaks them apart. But I just didn't like how all of a sudden we don't see Sydney's perspective. We don't get any of that, to the point where she disappears,
yeah. She
and
disappears.
it's Shepard trying to deal with it. He's like, "I'm gonna go climb in an Oldsmobile or in a Chevy, and I'm gonna beg her to come back." And she walks in, and that's when she comes back into the story, and it's charming again and everything. But it's like, I just missed. All of a sudden, she became a plot point instead of an actual person. That's my only main flaw in here, and where the politics did interrupt that, where I didn't get to get her insight into it.
Do you think that was again, just an Aaron Sorkin thing, or just editing or something? What's your take on that? Well,
We've
because I agree with you.
we've talked about this in surprisingly, in a few episodes of we're revisiting 90s movies this season on Nostalgia Cast, and we've had
Yes.
a few conversations with Last of the Mohicans, like I said, where Jenny talked to us, with In the Line of Fire, with Get Shorty, where it seems like the women in a lot of 90s movies are getting the short shrift, like they're just there to be an object, right? It's sad because that's just, I mean, literally in the Line of Fire, Renee Russo is limited to a window dressing role where she's just there to be the hero's kind of buck up and get back at it kind of thing, where she doesn't feel she's subservient to the plot, right? And I don't know, maybe that's just the 90s way of writing, and it is disappointing to see Sydney Ellen Wade become that. You know what I mean? I just think it might be something in uh, the more we dive into these 90s movies, it might become more prevalent, but I think it just might have something to do with that.
Still, though, uh, a very different style of film for Rob Reiner to
Yeah.
direct, which I feel like he did very well. You know, again, an interesting kind of genre, a romantic comedy set in the White House.
Right.
But I thought overall it really worked.
Right. And that's what, like I said, it is a shame that she kind of disappears like that, and it's, but the romance still works. It's, when she says, I didn't put that to the floor to win you back, and I didn't come back because you put it to the floor, right? And so they're just in love with each other, and their chemistry is just off the charts great, where
Yeah.
they really feel like they're attracted to each other, and there's nothing, you can't fake that. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly, and I've always wanted a Virginia ham. You know the
Right, right.
yeah. Such a fine film. I still, again, I know I'm being a broken record, Darren, but these 7 films that we've talked about.
Yeah.
First one was was released in 1984. Then The American President was released in 1984 for Spinal Tap. 1995,
Right.
American President. So over 11 years, these and other films that we didn't talk about. That are made. What a prolific body of work, and what an excellent, what excellent films these are.
Yeah.
I mean, to even have been able to work on one of those in your lifetime,
Right.
let alone 7 within an 11-year period. I still am kind of a little overwhelmed by that.
Well, it's funny, like, again, you're looking at, this is Spinal Tap, The Sure Thing, Stand By Me, The Princess Bride, When Harry Met Sally, Misery, A Few Good Men, all great, right? I don't have, wow, all those are terrific movies. And then in 94, he has North, which is probably his worst movie. I know
Yeah.
Ethan's review is just, I hated, 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 hated. And then he bounces back with The American President. I think it might be more of a, oh, let's get Sorkin back in here where I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I remember after this one, after American President, being so excited to see Ghosts of Mississippi in a theater. And that movie just was so listless.
It wasn't good.
And every movie after, he hasn't. Is this one of those things? Because I know that Coppola in the 70s had The Godfather, The Conversation, The Godfather Part 2, Apocalypse Now. He had these 4 movies that are legit masterpieces.
That are masterpieces. And then nothing.
That's good, yeah. Is it one of those, maybe Rob Reiner just sapped all of his energy and all of his creativity? What do you think?
I've been thinking a lot about it this week as we've been, getting ready for this podcast. I wish I had answers, Darren. One thing, in a way, it's encouraging, some strangely encouraging to me, because I think you can't be brilliant all the time. And
Right.
that just, we're all only human. And so you can have these incredibly creative highs, of artistic excellence, and then your next movie is North. So again, I wish I had something to say other than I look at Rob Reiner's body of work, and I'm amazed at these films that we've talked about, and admire so much how much he worked. Because he worked, he made a lot of films and acted in a lot of films as well, including some of the stuff that he directed. But he was doing some of both, and he did some some TV work and different things. But wow, this particular creative period, it just was, did it have to do with his age, with his energy level, with just kind of
collaborators, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, with collaboration was just kind of it was serendipitous, you know. I guess Darren and I have more questions than answers about it, but in some ways though, and not wanting to completely slam on those films that like that we don't particularly like or admire, but just knowing that you don't hit a home run every time, but you still keep working, you know.
We can write off North. The fact that he had this 11-year stretch of these movies that I'm so grateful that have been made. And like I said, I have to actually have The Princess Bride in front of me for me to realize, oh, this is going to make my top 25. For some reason, I forget to include it.
Yeah.
But these movies made an impact, right? And you can tell it's a Rob Reiner movie, especially in these movies, because of the way that he's just got his actors all on the same page with each other, and everything's just clicking, and it's so warm and it's so charming, and it can be threatening like in Misery, it can be romantic like in American President and When Harry Met Sally, it can be, improvisational like This Is Spinal Tap, or A Few Good Men, just being such a great. At the end of the day, the fact that it's such a great crowd pleaser and you can watch with a group of friends and just pump your fist when did you order the code red? You're damn right I did. It just gets you. Even The American President has that wonderful line where it's the Rumson character who's like, my name is Robert Rumson and I'm running for president. And then at the end, it's my name is Andrew Shepard and I am the president.
And I am the president. Yes, I know. It's just the best. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm so grateful that we have these movies and that Rob Reiner gave us, like you said, these gifts that we're able to talk. I know that we originally planned on maybe doing like a countdown of our top 5, but I love that you settled on, let's just do these 7. Let's not worry about kicking any of these out. And I was like, yes, let's just do that. It's going to be so refreshing instead of having to limit ourselves.
Yeah, this was so great. And I'm so glad we could have this discussion because in a way it's been therapeutic. I mean, kind of in a way that a funeral's therapeutic.
Yeah, nice sketch, right? It's about the celebration. It's not about, woe is the times and things like that. Yeah, it's tragic, but let's talk about what he meant, and why.
Yeah. And we've got these great gifts of these absolutely fantastic films that we can watch and remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love it.
Well, Darren, as always, huge thanks for joining the podcast. Thank you so much for your insights.
Oh, I love it.
Well, and this one I owe to you, my friend. This was your very fine idea. So thank you, Darren. Where can people find you online?
Well, I'm still on Twitter at DW Lundberg. The interactions, I still find these little pockets of joy on there, so that's why you'll still find me on Twitter. I am occasionally on Blue Sky at dwlundberg.bsky.social, and then every now and then you'll see me complaining about Utah traffic on Facebook. But
well, and of course you've got your great Nostalgia Cast podcast too, which is you and Johnny do such great work.
And Back to Blue, we've got that one too with my friend Rob. So
fun.
You can listen to me on those ones.
Well, thank you again for being here. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend.
And rest in peace, Rob Reiner.
Yes, R.I.P.
Well, that does it for this episode of the Movies Past and Present podcast. Huge thanks again to Darren Lundberg for joining me. Subscribe to the podcast where you listen to podcasts, and follow me or send me feedback on Instagram. My handle is @StanfordClark. As always, I hope people enjoy some good movies, whether they be from the past or the present. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, be safe out there and dedicate yourself to the truth.
Bye.